There's a rule every empire believes it can escape, right up until the moment it can't. The rule is this: when the price of gold doubles, the empire collapses. This isn't some ancient curse or a conspiracy theory. It's a number. It's a pattern. A countdown that has held true for over 2,000 years. And that countdown has already begun again. Most people imagine the fall of an empire as a sudden, dramatic event, armies storming the gates, cities burning. But the reality is far more brutal. A collapsing empire doesn't fall from the outside. It melts from the inside, starting with its money. To understand what's coming next, you only need to do one thing: look back at history. Because every single time gold has exploded in value, an empire has fallen. Rome fell. Spain fell. The Ming Dynasty in China fell. Britain fell. And the United States. Its signal has already flashed. Let's start with the original blueprint. Rome. The Roman Empire wasn't conquered by an invading army. It fell because its money died. For nearly 300 years, the Roman economy ran on a single coin, the silver denarius. It was solid, trusted, and stable. But then, greed started to creep in. The denarius, which was once 95% pure silver, slowly became 90%, then 80%, then 70%. Each emperor shaved off a little more, debasing the currency, thinking the people wouldn't notice. By the 3rd century, the denarius was a complete joke. It contained barely 5% real silver, just a thin coating of shine that would rub off in your hand. The market panicked. The price of gold skyrocketed, and prices for everyday goods rose by over 1,000%. And remember the rule: when gold doubles, the empire follows. Rome shattered into chaos. Soldiers started demanding payment in gold, not worthless coins. Trade completely broke down. Emperors would last only a few months before being murdered. The money collapsed first, and the empire collapsed right along with it. Now, let's jump forward to the 1500s. The pattern repeats with the Spanish Empire. At the time, Spain was the richest empire the world had ever seen. But it wasn't rich because it produced anything of value. It was rich because it stole wealth. Silver from Bolivia, gold from Mexico. Entire fleets of ships loaded with treasure sailed back to Spain. They thought having unlimited silver meant they had unlimited power, but what it really meant was unlimited inflation. Prices quadrupled in a single century. The poor, starved middle class was completely wiped out. The elites, who understood what was happening, hoarded gold and managed to survive. Then, the Spanish government did the exact same thing Rome did. They debased their currency. They started replacing silver coins with copper ones, all while lying to the people about their real value. And the moment the price of gold and silver doubled in terms of these new worthless coins, the Spanish Empire collapsed. Even in the East, they couldn't escape the pattern. The Ming Dynasty in China tried something different: paper money. They thought they could outsmart scarcity by just using printing presses. And for a while, it seemed to work. But the government couldn't resist the temptation to print endlessly. The value of their paper money collapsed by 99%. People refused to accept it. They started demanding to be paid in silver instead. As the value of silver exploded, it became impossible for people to pay their taxes. Famine spread, rebellions ignited, and the dynasty fell. It was the same pattern, the same mechanism, and the exact same ending. This brings us to the modern era and the collapse of the British Empire. For a long time, Britain ruled the world. Its currency, the pound sterling, was the global anchor. But endless wars drained its treasury, and massive debt poisoned its economy. By 1949, the breaking point came. The pound lost 30% of its value against the US dollar in a single weekend. And because gold was pegged to the dollar at the time, the price of gold in British pounds surged overnight. That was the signal. The British Empire's financial crown was gone. The United States stepped in to take its place. And that takes us to today. The final chapter, the American Empire. In 1971, one single moment changed everything for the global financial system. President Nixon appeared on television and announced that the US dollar would no longer be backed by gold.
I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
In that instant, the dollar became a pure fiat currency, backed by nothing more than faith. Gold immediately erupted. Its price shot up from $35 an ounce to $70, then to $180, and eventually to over $800. And the rule held true: when gold doubles, it means the empire's monetary system is fundamentally broken. Since 1971, the United States has printed more money than all previous empires combined. National debt has exploded. Wars have expanded across the globe. Financial crises have become more frequent and more severe. And now, gold has broken out again. But it's not because gold itself got stronger. It's because the dollar got weaker. The signal has already flashed, and history shows us that empires do not survive the signal. So, when people sense that their money is dying, they naturally look for an escape. In Rome, it was gold. In Spain, it was silver. Today, the popular escape route is digital. Bitcoin is presented as the perfect solution. It's decentralized, untouchable by governments, and revolutionary. But what does it actually depend on? It depends on electricity. It depends on the internet. It depends on digital exchanges. All of this is infrastructure controlled by the very governments people are trying to escape from. One flick of a switch, one piece of legislation, and the entire escape route can vanish. Not because the code fails, but because the system it relies on collapses. It's the perfect decoy digital trap that catches everyone who correctly identifies the problem but chooses the wrong solution. So what is the real arc? What actually survives every collapse? Just look at what the world's central banks are doing right now. Look at the elites. Look at what governments are doing. Not what they're saying. They aren't buying Bitcoin. They aren't buying digital tokens. They are buying physical gold. They are buying more gold now than at any other time in modern history. They're bringing their gold back from other countries, locking it away in secure vaults, and preparing for a global reset. Because for 5,000 years, through the death of every single empire, only three things have consistently survived: gold, silver, and real assets that you can physically hold in your hands. Gold doesn't necessarily make you rich, it protects you from being made poor. Silver has always been the currency of everyday people, and real assets, like land and resources, are the fundamental tools for building the future. Everything else is just noise. The blueprint is complete. The signal has flashed. The ancient pattern has returned. Rome ignored it. Spain ignored it. China ignored it. Britain ignored it. And now, the United States sits at the very same crossroads. When gold doubles, the empire collapses. It has already doubled. So the only question left isn't about history. It's about you. Will you be on the receiving end of what could be the greatest wealth transfer in human history? Or will you be left holding the worthless paper money of a dying empire? Thanks for watching. If you found this information valuable, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.